Morning, morning. Welcome, everybody. Wisdom's Chats. I believe it's meant to be some kind of public holiday here in South Africa this morning, but who knows? Monday to Friday we're here, regardless. So we shall carry on. The question is, do we have a choice? Don't we have a choice? So free will, I think, is the discussion this morning. We did speak about choice a little while back, but is free will different to choice? I don't know. Ed, I think this was your topic, so you better launch in and tell us why we have or don't have free will.
Yeah, this was all sort of brought to mind by seeing that guy, Tom Wright, on the US chat. He was a magician. And then he appeared on my networking event. And he did this thing where he just asked this woman to open her phone up, look on Wikipedia, look up her famous film star on Wikipedia, and then pick a 6-letter word out of all the stuff that was printed. Then he told her who that film star was and what the word was. And you think, well, how's he do that? And I happened to notice there was a research paper called Mind Control Tricks, Magicians, Forcing and Free Will. And I tried to access it, but unfortunately the journal Trends in Cognitive Science isn't an open access journal, so I could only get slight bits of it. But they were saying that basically the magicians have 3 techniques. One's the position effect, where they know that if they lay 4 cards on a table, most right-handed people will pick the 3rd one from the left because it's the easiest to get to. And they use that a lot. And then there's things like mental priming, and they'll use words and visual cues to force you to take the choice that they want. And I think, when we're growing up, how much priming do we get? And it struck me that we're always told we should eat like a king, dine like a prince, and sup like a pauper. But how many people have a roast dinner for breakfast? Yeah, we'd never think of having meat and potatoes for breakfast. Well, not in the UK, we wouldn't. So we're primed, aren't we? We're primed to do these certain things. And then the other thing they do is they give the illusion of choice. So they might, for example, say, pick a card. Out of 2 cards, you pick one. If it's not the one they want, they'll say, okay, we'll discard that one. If it is the one they want, they'll say, we'll keep that one. And it looks as though you've got the choice. And I suppose, that's a bit like our voting system in the UK. We've got a choice between the Tories or the Labour Party. The other parties don't get a look in. But actually, whoever you vote for, all the politicians, particularly the ones that become ministers, all went to the same schools and universities. So they probably all think the same. So you think you're getting a choice, but you're not really. And this one about position really interested me because I've got a practical example. Lady called Davina started a company making these really good natural fruit bars, and they were just made of oats, coconut oil, and fruit. And that was it. Nothing added, nothing extra. They were healthy, and she lives in Cornwall. And then she sold them into Tesco, which is one of our big supermarkets. They were on the middle shelf, which is the prime position, and she sold loads and loads and loads and loads of them. So she scaled the company up, and then all of a sudden sales fell off the cliff. When she did some investigating, she found that Tesco's have now brought out their own bar with a very similar name. However, when you look at the ingredients, there isn't actually any real fruit in there. It's got mango flavoring added. It's got preservatives added. It's got all sorts of bits added. And strangely enough, their bar was now on the middle shelf and her bar was on the bottom shelf. So you think of it from the consumer's perspective, they wanted to buy a natural bar that was ethically sourced, which they were doing. And then by Tesco's manipulation, they are suddenly buying a bar that isn't so good for them, isn't so good for the planet because it contains palm oil, and isn't so good for the economies because that they're not so good at paying suppliers that well. And all of a sudden, people, because of positioning, haven't made the choice they wanted to make. And I think that's only a very minor example. That's one small company that I know of. And I think we do get manipulated that way. And we do get manipulated by politicians, by companies, by all sorts of people to do things that they want us to do. And we don't realize we're doing it. And we're programmed in all sorts of ways. So I don't think we have free choice, because we're taking the choices we're programmed to do or led to do, like the magician does. He gives you certain clues, so you make the choice and think, oh, I'm making a nice choice here, but you're not. You've been led down the garden path. So yeah, I don't think we have free choice. We just programmed. We might make some selections. We might occasionally rebel, but we normally go down the path we're supposed to go down.
Right. Okay. So we don't have a choice. So yeah, I have to pick on someone now. So whoever you don't have a choice. So Jesper, I think it's you. So what do you think?
Well, in one way, I fully agree with Ed that the system out there is using all these sublime techniques and neuro-linguistic programming and the illusion of choices to get you to choose what they want to do. But I still believe we have free will, and if you then understand what is busy being done to you, then you can choose not to be part of that whole thing. But the problem is, the majority of people, their only input in life is the media, the controlled media, the controlled from print to TV to radio. So then what do you do to almost read between the lines and refuse to be part of the big thing? And without going down a whole line of conspiracy theory and all sorts of that, I'm saying, all right, just make sure that you read wider, that you connect with other influences, and be very strong in your own mind and identity. And you may just, to your surprise, find that some of the options offered you by the mainstream media is for now acceptable. You can go along, but then comes a time that they are not. And I know, like for political, I'm an outcast because I'm voting for the smallest party in government, but I know them, I know what they stand for. But that's my one chance in 5 years when we have a vote. The rest of the time, I've got 24/7 to vote for the things that affect me. So what I have learned is the nature of man is that if you give him too much of a choice, he is now totally confused. He's paralyzed by decision making. So in cases like that, and that could also be part of this system manipulation, because if you flood people with choice, then they go back to what they used to. How else would you almost explain how for the last almost 30 years we keep voting for, or not us around the table here necessarily, but how the majority of people keep voting for the party that just destroy everything in their wake. But there are so many choices of parties out there that they, when they're faced with the choice what to do now, then they go back to what they're familiar with. So what I have learned in myself, that when you do present people with alternatives, give them 2, maximum 3 choices and make it clear what the options are, because there are certain people that can only count to 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if you make it easy for them, then they can wrap their mind around it. But give them too much, then they can't wrap their mind around them. Yeah, so I don't have too much to say about free will. I think the circumstance can certainly on the surface put you in a position where you have no further free will, but then in your own soulish world, mind, will, and emotions, that's where you still have free will, and you can choose, do you going to react or respond, and what kind of internal world do you create? And I think that's almost the only place where we do have completely free will. And then the sad part is most people give that up too. But yeah, so that's my contribution.
Thanks, Jasper. I thought you might take us down a slightly different route, but anyway, that's what Wisdoms is all about. We never know which way it's going to go. So, Trevor, which way is it going to go from here?
Probably downhill, but let's give it a go. I thought this was fascinating because I think we are all influenced in huge ways by all the inputs that actually come in, all these blooming books and magazines and TV channels and everything that we watch and hear and listen to different people. But I also agree with Jasper that we do have free will. It's just that the vast majority of people actually don't utilize it. And I thought there were a couple of comments that were made by both Ed and Jasper that were quite interesting. And the one sort of line that Ed was going down, he was talking about this chocolate bar that all consumers wanted, he said. So I know Ed's got a crystal ball into every single consumer's head as to what chocolate bar they wanted. And that when that chocolate bar that they really wanted was put on the bottom shelf, no, they didn't take that one. Even though they wanted it, they took the one in the middle. So, you know, I'm not buying into that, Ed. If I seriously wanted that chocolate bar, I'd bend down and pick up the one at the bottom that I want. Then the other comment that you made, Ed, was we are primed, which suddenly got me thinking of a lovely little metaphor that Zig Ziglar always used. And I loved his metaphor, and that was of an old-fashioned pump, a water pump. So he was obviously thinking about farms somewhere in the heart of the USA with this old-fashioned water pump, talking about people that were so busy blooming trying to pump up the water out of the well, and they never ever got it up until they discovered that pump had to be primed, which got me thinking, to get people moving. Is that an indication and a metaphor that what we have to do, understanding the weakness of people to utilize their own free will, if we would like them to take the type of decisions we'd like them to take, do we have to prime them? Which was quite interesting. And then it says, well, you know, this blooming manipulating people like a magician, is it all a game? And do we have to understand the game, and do we have to be creating our own game? Do we game the system? Because is this all about systems that have been utilized to actually redirect and play off our weaknesses? I think so. I think it is. But at the end of the day, how does a consumer stop themselves from buying every special offer that has been magically designed to actually make them purchase it? Well, the fact that we actually don't all come back here with 1,000 things every single day says that we're able to resist some of these things for a variety of reasons. Right, what is it? So what have I stimulated? Come on, it wasn't a chocolate bar, it was a health bar. You've been seriously primed to one chocolate. Yes, I have been. There's no way I'm going to eat a health bar before a chocolate bar. You put the two in front of me, I'm going for the chocolate. But if you wrap that health bar in chocolate, I'll eat it, Ed, just for you. What else can I add to this? No, I think you know, there was something that I was onto, I've forgotten. So someone has influenced me, and you can see how simple it is to actually influence my mind and take me off track because I had something big. So I'll let Ivan have his say, and I'm sure that I'll remember what direction I wanted to go down.
Trevor, that's got nothing to do with influence. It's got everything to do with age, I think. So, yeah, it's, you know, there are lots of the train of thought. Yeah, distractions. You know, I think that's partially what it's about. You know, it kicked us off with using the magician as an example, and of course, misdirection is one of the big tools of a magician. You know, they take you off down a path that they want, as they're done, they want you to go, but they are in the process of misdirecting you because something is happening where you're not focusing. Yeah, something like that, Trevor. Yeah. You cross swords or cross fingers or cross directions, and who knows where it's going to go from there. But the real question that comes into my mind as part of this discussion is, I don't think it's not a question of whether we have free will or not. I absolutely believe we do. The question is, do we exercise it? For me, so do we actually exercise our free will? And I think we've been conditioned not to. So there, I absolutely agree. I think our environment, the media, our parents, you know, don't do that, do this, you know, what is that? It's all conditioning, you know, to be told what to do, when to do, and how to do it is an element of human society, and I suppose it is even outside of the human space, because if animals, and humans included in that, don't learn what not to do, you know, they're going to be constantly running into problems and probably hurt themselves or lose their lives or be eaten or something like that. So there's an element of validity in that conditioning. The question is, as humans, whether we have the ability to stop and think. And I think too many of us are conditioned exactly not to do that. We just go with the flow. We see the bright, shiny widget being advertised, and we have this, what might appear to be an instinctive need to reach out and grab it. Well, guess what? It's not instinctive. It's programmed. So there I do absolutely agree. But the real question is, when you reach out to grab it, do you stop and think, what am I actually grabbing? And I think that's where Ed's example of the middle shelf, bottom shelf scenario is you know, a great example of that. You know, if, as Trevor says, you truly wanted the right health bar, you would reach out and grab the shiny object on the middle shelf. You'd look at it and say, well, this is not what I wanted. Put it back, and then look for the one on the shelf that you actually do want. And I think it really is. It comes down to being conscious about your choices, and I think Ed, you're a perfect example of that, because you want to be very conscious of your choices, especially when it comes to eating. You know, so you're going to be looking very carefully at what's in the packet and what's on the shelf and what's in the vaccine, and exercising your free will to make the decision that is pertinent to your set of values. So it comes back to that, and then that's the discussion we've also had, values. So I think, yeah, we can allow ourselves to be led down the garden path, absolutely, and I think we are frequently on a daily basis, and that is the intention, as Jasper said, of subliminal advertising and overt advertising and conditioning and all sorts of other good things like that. But if you have the ability just to stop and think, maybe you'll make a different choice. Yes, Ed.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back on a couple of things, especially about the shelf thing. You know, I think it's, if you map human behavior or any type of behavior or any type of thing, really, they tend to be on a sort of bell-shaped curve, a sort of a normal distribution. So yeah, the majority of people will be influenced by the position on the shelf, but the super fit people will you know, go to the bottom shelf, etc. And as you say, I spent all my life reading labels on food, But I think, we can be so subtly influenced by by cues. I knew a guy who was very big into NLP. I can never say it. You know what I mean? NLP. And he, to show how well it worked, we were in a pub one day, and it was in the days when you were allowed to smoke in those pubs. And he said to me, he said, I bet you I can get that guy to stub his cigarette out before he's finished it. And do you know what he did? He just started fiddling with a pencil. He was talking to this guy, mirroring what the guy did. If the guy was like leaning to one side, he'd lean to one side, and he kept fiddling with his pencil, and he put the pencil up towards his face, and etc. And then at one point, he just tapped the pencil on the bar, and the guy put his cigarette out in the ashtray. It was that subtle. And because of our programming, if you want, and this is right up Trevor's Street, if you want the biggest piece of chocolate cake, the way to make sure you get it is to be the one handing the cake out, because everyone has been told not to take the biggest piece. So no one takes the biggest piece, and you're left with the biggest piece, because we're always told as children it's rude. Yes, there might be someone that doesn't, stick with the convention and takes the biggest piece and you lose out, but 99% of people won't take the biggest piece. So we are programmed in that way. And I'll let you tell Laura what we're talking about.
Great, thanks, Ed. I've got a far easier solution. It's just be first and take the biggest piece. So Laura, we're talking about whether we have free will or not. So yeah, welcome. Glad you managed to pop in, even if your clocks didn't have free will and they got it all wrong this morning. So yeah, I mean, this surely has to be right up your wheelhouse. I mean,
yeah, and if I can just add a byline, the only topic you can talk about is free will.
Well, the last thing I remember hearing at the end of the last meeting was something about Free Willy.
It's about, are we conned by magicians' tricks and things like that?
Well, it's interesting because I once was proposed a concept that what if we are the experiment? What if we are in the terrarium? What if we're the one being manipulated? What if we're the research study? I thought that was fascinating. That I never thought about that. Free will. I know from my experience, there's a difference between nature and nurture. There's certain things that I can't control that I'm born with, and even when that's the case, even though that's the case, I have control over whether or not I act on that. Do I have control over the fact that I have red hair? I was born this way. I can change it. It doesn't mean that it's not going to come out red. Can I change the color of my skin? Well, I can get some dye on it. I'm still going to burn more quickly than others in the sun. Yes, there's certain parts of my personality. Literally, I know the moment. I remember where I was at, who I was with. I remember what the argument was about. I know what age I was when I realized, why am I calling this person? I was angry at myself. Why am I calling this person these names? Because they're not true. And I'm angry, and I'm just saying those describing that person's character that way, just so I can hurt them, because I'm so mad that it's an opportunity to deflect and change it, starting to change it. And with that comes awareness. So free will, I mean, just because I'm born in Italy doesn't mean I'm a Catholic. If I'm born in Italy, it's highly likely. I think it's very interesting that whatever country I'm born in, conceptually, is that it's wonderful that I was born into that. That's that religion I was born in. Everybody else is going to hell if you believe in hell. So yeah, I believe there's free will. Theoretically, I think when there's ignorance, that people, I just can't control it. It's too hard. It's too hard to learn a computer. You learn to drive. So I guess without a little bit more background, coming in a little late, I beg your pardon, might have a little bit more to add to it. I think people say they just can't control it. They were born this way. Well, partly so I got 5 toes. I could change that. I was born this way, I can change it. I can't grow another toe though, unless I got like a mutant. Then
Well, you could find a dino who's prepared to give you one. So there you go. You can sew another one on. Whether it would work very well or not is another question entirely. Yeah, so I'm glad you did join us. Yeah, I think you probably touched on all the key points. So yeah, Trevor, you raised your hand, or were you just batting flies away or something?
No, I was saying hello to other people that are walking past. What can I do? What was that? What was that?
You're conditioned. You're conditioned. You don't have
Yeah.
free will. You've got to greet them.
I'm trying to have a look at that movie where the guy was stuck inside this. When you talked of a terrarium, Laura, he was stuck inside this. He was like the main actor. He didn't know that he was the main actor being watched by the world.
Life of Brian or something, wasn't it?
No. It was that guy who acted in The Mask. I can't remember his name.
Jim Carrey, yeah.
Yeah. And he was in this movie where they were shooting him from outside, and he was like in this dome, and then he discovered when he got to the dome he couldn't. He suddenly realized he was walking around in a big circle, but I can't remember the name of the movie. And then I discovered this whole lot, great philosophical movies that question free will. I don't think I've watched one of them. So I might go and pick up a couple and have a chat. It's quite an interesting topic, but that's, I will reserve my right to my free will to watch them when I want to watch them. My wife said I couldn't. Okay. You didn't hear that, huh?
No, but I'm going to tell Sheldon when I see her. So, all right. Okay, so yeah, free will, do we? And Laura, I couldn't agree more. I think we just one big cosmic experiment. So, where do we go from here? Anybody got a thought for a topic tomorrow? After that, I don't have a choice. I've got to ask you. So, you better let me know. And you don't have a choice. You got to answer me. So, come on. What do you got, Trev?
You know what? I was looking. Someone mentioned a link to me, and I can't remember where it came from, of a guy in the States who had produced an energy drink, Manoj Bhavgar. Was it one of you people that mentioned him to me? Let me go and get that link quickly and post it in here. It's I think it is billionsinchange.com. Somewhere, do you guys have that? Let me see if I can get that link quickly. Oh, yeah, it is here. I'm going to grab it, cut it and paste it for you. And early this morning, I decided to watch it, or yesterday, I can't remember. I haven't slept. Let me come back to you guys. Oh, it's The Truman Show. That was it. Yeah, very good. But you know what? I've never really heard of this guy. And then I looked at what he was doing. He grew up in Philadelphia in the States, from the story that I can actually pick up, and made about $4 billion or something to that effect. And he's committed to giving away 99% of that, primarily to rescuing his people, the poorest of the poor in India, of which he says there are about a third that need energy or electricity, water, and health. And there's a 21-minute movie in that, which is absolutely phenomenal. And as I've been looking at his degree of influence, talking about influence here, I get the feeling that he seems to be almost like a lone light and the people around him, because if you have a look at the collateral that he's got, it's not the greatest collateral in the world, a marketing collateral. And it seems that maybe a lot more people can actually be connecting with this guy and doing things. And Ed, I thought, man, this must be right up your street, and perhaps we should all be linking to someone like this, unless you know, I've been influenced in the wrong direction. And maybe you guys can turn around to me and say, okay, where are the weaknesses in this guy, or should we jump in on it and create in a movement?
Yes, yes. So if you manage to extract the topic out of that, you're damn sight better than I am.
Trevor, did you say he made his money out of an energy drink?
Yes.
Because have you read Waterlogged by Tim Noakes?
So I know Tim Noakes, but I haven't read his Waterlogged. Yeah.
Because he blames sort of loads and loads of stuff on Gatorade, the energy drink people.
And so why am I impressed? Because this guy's raised $4 billion and he's contributing 99% of it to saving the world in India. So maybe you're trying to influence me down another direction.
So what was the topic, Trevor?
Well, I thought what we should do is, because if none of us knew this guy, why don't we go do some homework on it and come back and discuss what we think is great or not so great about what he's actually doing to actually change the world.
Okay. Jasper, you wanted to add something in?
Before you now decided on a topic, I was going to say that during our discussion, what came up in me is that, yes, we are all conditioned by our growing up years and the peers and the education and all of that, but many of us have now changed and are totally different people from who we were when we were young. And what made that change, and then the topic that I was steering towards is the why versus the how. And if the why is strong enough, if the why isn't strong enough, then the how doesn't matter. So I thought we could maybe elaborate about what made people change, how strong was their why? Because, in this whole thing of eating healthy or living healthy, or even, just Trevor's last point there of people being poor, there's so many books and things out there to escape poverty, but why aren't people escaping poverty? Because maybe their why is not strong enough yet, and they're not willing to pay the price. So it's, maybe we can make a topic out of that.
Well, I think that actually dovetails perfectly with Billions and Change. So we can look at those two in conjunction. So what was his why and his how, and whether his how is ethical and waterlogged, or whether it was not. And so let's pick that one up in the morning. So thanks everyone. Have a fantastic day further. Go and work out how your why works, and see what we can discuss tomorrow. So have a great one, and we'll see you tomorrow. Cheers now.